Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Star Wars Battlefront video. And there hasn't been one in a while, but this one is a little bit different. As you probably will be able to tell by the title, this is a General Grievous Origins and life, really, video. So, not wasting any time, we'll get straight into this. So General Grievous, long before he became a cyborg, he was, not many probably know this, but he was from a planet called Kali. And while he was on Kali, he was very talented in combat, and among his people he became known as a demigod. And his real name, if I can pronounce this right, is Qaiman J. Shalil, which quite a complicated name. And during his youth, by the time of 8, he's the most skilled sniper of his species, really. Grievous, well, Qaiman, Jedi, Shilly, whatever you want to call him. I'll just call him Grievous because that'll be much easier. He was the best at sniping of his species, as I said, species. He wasn't actually human. Well, it was like kind of human, but he was a humanoid reptilian, and he had like bat-like features on his face and like long, elongated ears and stuff, and you know, not a normal like human. And during his youth, the Kalish warriors, and he was a Kalish warrior since he was very young, and he was very good at what he done, and very powerful. And there was like the Kalish warriors had enemies, which were the Huck, which were like basically giant, not giant, but like big beetle creatures, which had like far more advanced technology than the Kali did. So the Huck used that against the Kali and usually imprisoned them and used them for slave work, and sometimes even just slaughtered them if they were like too young to work. So obviously, like, due to this slaughtering happening in like the young children of the Kali species, or Kali species, whatever you want to call it, Grievous had hatred for the Huck, and as shown for it, like, which would later on make him turn to the Sith, really. Well, it wasn't really his choice, but I'll get to that on later on in the video. And it would, like, once he got like about 8-year-old, he was becoming a fierce warrior, and he was amassing more kills than anyone else in his tribe. And the people of Kali, as I said earlier, looked up to him. They thought he was a god and a blessing. And as the war like went on between him and the Kali and the Huck, he would meet and become close with a girl called Roger Lij Kamur, a master with a sword. And like Grievous got very close to her and had feelings for her. And they would go out and slay this big beast. I forget what it's called, but it's like it's a fierce beast on the planet of Kali, and only the most, according to the Kali like not origins, but like beliefs, they believed if you could defeat one of these creatures, you were truly a god, because they were that hard to defeat. And Grievous went out with this girl he had feelings for, obviously. Roger Lij Kamur was her name, and then they killed it, and Grievous actually used that the skull of it for a mask, which most of the Kali actually done, not with that beast's like skull, but like other animal skulls. And just it was one of their many like weird beliefs. And Grievous was looked up upon from then on as more than a god. And Grievous, this kind of took to his head, but he was still really loyal to his soldiers, his men. And obviously he was like the leader of the Kali then, like, basically. And he just, if any anything got in his way, he would just annihilate it, really. And then in his like teen years, his like the person he had feelings for, this girl, she would actually die due to the Huck and battle of the war, which actually lasted a long time, the war between them, and leaving Grievous or Clement very angry and sworn to get revenge on the Huck. And this, like, her death drove Grievous into deep depression, and actually, well, Qui-Man, and then he changed his name to Grievous. Not many might know that, but he did change his name, like, personally to Grievous. And he was in a deep depression because of it, because he really loved her, and they were both very talented in battle. And he had a really massive amount of hatred for the Huck then on, so he, even more than he had from when he was a child, which, you know, was very much. And this depression would actually, the depression that I had would just lead into complete and utter just hatred, and that amount of hatred, as I've said many times before, was a lot of hate. And they started then, because he was like a leader of his men, the Khaleesi, he started just doing vicious attacks on the Huck, which actually eventually drove the Huck off the planet, because the attacks were so brutal. Like, the Khaleesi at one point actually, I think, wiped out half the Huck species in one of their attacks, which the Huck could not risk their whole species being extinct. Now, the Huck didn't look very smart. They were just like beetles, really, big eyes, but they were quite intelligent. Well, intelligent enough to realize we need to get off this planet away from these warriors, whatever, or whoever's planning these attacks, because obviously their species will just be no more at a point. Like, so the Huck really had no choice. But Grievous's hatred for these Huck was such a massive amount. He, even if they were off his planet, he wanted more than what the revenge he'd got. So, like, he planned to exterminate them all just completely. Their species, just, which, as I said earlier, the Huck really didn't want, as would any species, really. But Grievous, as I said, wanted more. He wanted to exterminate them all, so he planned like attacks on all their colony worlds, and succeeded in basically all of them. So the Huck, like the remaining Huck, went into hiding, and because they had no other choice, because the Khaleesi were gaining numbers and they were losing numbers. And the Khaleesi now actually had more advanced technology than the Huck at this point of time. And this was just, Grievous's attacks were just driven by this girl and his life's death. So, if, like, the Huck, if you think about it, if the Huck didn't kill her, which they probably had to, because that's what their beliefs were, blah blah blah. But if the Huck didn't kill her, he probably wouldn't have done all those attacks. He probably still would have fought them, yes, definitely, probably, but, you know. But the Huck couldn't have, like, thought that if they killed this one person, then they'd be just extinct, nearly within months. And as Grievous, like, actually got closer to the Huck homeworld, and if you didn't know, the Huck homeworld wasn't Khaleesi, sorry. They just invaded there like thousands of years before Grievous was born, and it got closer and closer to their homeworld, just wiping out all their colonies as he went. And then he was basically at the homeworld, like he was about one colony away, and the Huck began just freaking out, like thinking they're all gonna die, which probably would have happened. But the Hawk, well, as they were freaking out, they had connections with the Trade Federation, which then led to them getting going to the Galactic Senate, and then they what do you call it? They convinced the Senate that the Kaleesh were actually the ones who had started the war, but it was actually the Hawk all along. But they convinced them that the Kaleesh were just notorious and vile and just, I don't know, they convinced them because of their connections with obviously the Trade Federation, and they just got them to think the Kaleesh were just these angry Sith-like creatures, and the Senate actually believed it, and like, so the Senate, this made them send out a group of Jedi to push the Hawk, not the Hawk, the Kaleesh warriors back to their home planet Kalee, and then this made Grievous just think the Senate are just full of just power hungry people, and if you don't have power, you're not necessarily respected among the Senate, is what Grievous thought. And he just had then hatred for the Senate, and then he went back to his home planet Kaleesh, and back there there's people in poverty because of the supposed crimes they had made against the Hawk, and so the Kaleesh people were just in poverty. So Grievous was trying to like maybe get up a plan to eventually get revenge on the Hawk, but one day he heard the Hawk were actually, some of the Hawk were destroying some of the ancient temples that belonged to only the Kalee, and it was their beliefs were written in them, and Grievous tried to put a stop to this with some of his men, and they got the one, and they found no Hawk, just a destroyed temple, and then they found a ship which was the same model as all the Kaleesh, so they decided to get into it and go back to the Hawk homeworld and try to kill the Hawk. And so he was getting into the ship, but Lord Sidious, or Emperor Palpatine, had heard of Grievous, and because Grievous had made a name for himself in his corner of the galaxy due to his amazing combat skills. So Grievous, Lord Sidious heard about this supposed demigod fighter, and Sidious wanted to use Grievous as a potential weapon in his greater schedule to uprule the galaxy, really, or remove the Galactic Senate. So Grievous would be the perfect fit, and hate for Jedi, and Grievous just fitted every part that Sidious wanted. And so from then on, Sidious was just making a plan, which didn't take him long to make, to get Grievous into his grasp, really. And so Sidious ordered his apprentice, at the time Count Dooku, who ended up in his death being betrayed by Sidious, but that's in the later stage of the series, really. But he ordered Dooku to get Grievous, explode Grievous in that ship, and get what remained left of him. And that's what Dooku did. He put a bomb in the ship, which would explode about 5 minutes after the ship had been lifted off the ground, and they exploded perfectly over a thing of water, which had been planned by Lord Sidious. So Grievous wouldn't die, he would be fatally injured though. And he was just destroyed when he got on the ship, and the ship just blown up to pieces as expected. And Grievous, what was left of Grievous were just face and a couple legs. Really, that's all that was left of him, and his heart and lungs. And then, as planned, Dooku got all these organs and put them in a tank filled with some revivable gas or something. It's due to like Sith, some sort of Sith, not magic, well, along the lines of that. And Grievous's remained organs were put in there, and Sand Hill, who was a very rich and like empowered person, and he offered Grievous to become a cyborg for the Empire, and he would be able to be the general of the commander of the clone army, which at first Grievous thought was an outrage, even for Grievous, because in the Kalish beliefs, a true police warrior is to die with his men, and Grievous wanted to do just that. But then when Sand Hill offered him to like pay off his people's debt, Grievous almost immediately accepted, and from then on, once Grievous was built, all he was a heart, a face under a metal mask, really, and lungs, and just everything else was cold, hard, blunt metal. And then, once Grievous was constructed, and when he was being constructed, Count Dooku actually tampered with Grievous's mind, making his hatred for the Jedi even more. So, like, Grievous had just an ultra amount of hatred for Jedi. And then he became what we know as this cyborg that was pretty tall, and had 4 arms and 4 lightsabers, and that would be pretty intimidating to come up against. Imagine that in real life, this big tall, like 7 foot maybe, cyborg, just coming at you with 4 lightsabers and their 4 fucking hands, or arms. That'd be intimidating. And Grievous went on to be a just Jedi hunter that was feared by almost all Jedi, well, all Jedi. And he played a huge part in the Clone Wars. And a lot of people actually ask, why are Grievous's lightsabers green and blue? And the simple question to that isn't actually just because there's a Jedi hunter. That's part of it. But so Grievous actually started off with red lightsabers, like Sith lightsabers. But then he actually had them stolen by these twins. I forget their names, but they were stolen by them. And Grievous, because they wanted to reform the Kyber crystals, like for an experiment, and they took his lightsabers, and they were Jedi, and Grievous went and just slaughtered them and took their lightsabers. And the twins were both dual wielding, so they had 2 lightsabers each, and that was actually perfect for Grievous because he had 4 arms, so it worked out perfectly for him. And then it became this Jedi killing machine. And then they played a huge part in the Clone Wars, and were just killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi, who shot him in the lungs and the heart, and then he just exploded. Well, he shot him a couple times, and Grievous was just, at the end of the day, just a cold, manipulated cyborg there. But and actually, Grievous wasn't actually force sensitive, which not many people know. And there's not much else to say about him really. He was just a badass cyborg that went around killing Jedi. And Grievous actually had very bad lungs and breathing because of the explosion, the amount of like, what would you say? The smoke he inhaled when the explosion happened really badly damaged his lungs. But they just about worked. And that's why in the movies you'll hear this cough. And even there now, the way he talks in the movies and this. Like that raspy voice. That's the reason. And it was, you know, at the end of the day, he was really just manipulated his whole life and driven by hatred. And not many things went his way in his life. Like, if you think about it, his love of his life died. The Huck killed all his men. The Huck lied then to the Senate about the police. Well, the police were pushing them back, but they had good reason, because the Huck started the war and all that. But the Huck made it look like, because of their connections with, obviously, the Trade Federation, it made, like, the Huck more believable than the police, and Grievous felt betrayed, and then that led to his hate to the Jedi, and that's General Grievous's life story and origins. So from being a very talented sniper, he actually was, and in battle like he used all his swords and stuff, but he started off as a sniper. And he was just an amazing, almost like Anakin Skywalker, the way he was amazing at pod racing. Just amazing combatist, just naturally gifted. And from being a naturally gifted, really powerful combatist, or whatever you want to call it, warrior, to a cyborg. It's quite interesting, his origins, actually. I haven't covered all of it, but if I did, then I'd be here like an hour, so I don't want to be sitting for that long. And if you like this video, it's not going to be over yet. I'm going to do a little bit of commentating on the game then. But if you like this video, make sure to subscribe and like, and even comment for any more suggestions. That's your choice, if you want to. Any maybe suggestions for like origins of any other characters? I actually have a few more coming up if you like the video. So, well, not if you like the video, I'm gonna do them anyway. But I quite enjoy doing them, and if you do like them, then that'll be even better. So a really interesting story there about Grievous, and like it wasn't covered in any of the movies really, his origins. You know, just started off with him in a ship, commanding it and like destroying droids, because they made him angry because of how unadvanced apparently they were. But actually, at first when the Jedi and all saw Grievous, they just thought he was a really advanced droid. So they did. And they actually later found out that he was an actual human. Well, he was like a mix of a human and a reptile, kind of. Like, well, that's why he's humanoid reptilian. Like the Kaleesh, their like faces were almost bat-like. I said that before, but they had like really long ears and these pointy, like almost vampire-like teeth. And their skin, as you can see from like Grievous's eyes, that was their skin color. And that was because the heat on Kalee, and that was just their natural skin color. And the wrinkles, I'm pretty sure, is caused from the heat on Kali, because Kali was a very warm planet. So, you know, and if you want to dig deeper into Grievous's facts, you could look at the Star Wars Expanded Universe, or even just Google, whatever you like. And there are other fact videos on Grievous, but, you know, whichever you want to watch. I'm not gonna tell you what's right and what's wrong. I might be doing another Dark Side Origins next video. That's a bit of a spoiler if you're still tuned in at this point. But this round's almost over, and the Kyber crystals for Sith lightsaber. I know this isn't really anything to do with Grievous, but a good few people know this. But if you don't, then a Sith lightsaber is caused from a Kyber crystal bleeding, basically, and that's just a trait of the Sith. They seek power. They don't care what is in their way to get there, and that's just like traits of the Sith, really. Grievous, obviously, wasn't really necessarily his choice to be a Sith. He never really wanted to serve the Empire or anything, never planned to. But that's just Daniel Grievous' life, origins, whatever you want to call it, story. And yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.